The 16-year-old's confession. No longer in the room. Hours and hours of pressure. It's a situation that has led to a debate that's still, tearing through the justice system. When someone confesses, are those words the absolute truth? Or are they maybe just the result of a process that was broken from the start?
Welcome back to the deep dive. So you sent over a really focused set of materials this week, transcripts, some articles, psychological reports, all on the 2005 interrogation of Brendan Dassey.
Right.
And we've agreed we're going to strip away the wider case today and really zero in on that one crucial thing, the interrogation itself, the mechanics of it.
That's the mission. And just for a little background, if you're not familiar, we're talking about a key moment in the investigation into the disappearance of Teresa Hallback. The main suspect was Stephen Avery, but the whole case took this dramatic turn when the focus shifted to his nephew, Brendan Dassey.
And he was just a kid, a minor high school student, only 16 years old when he was pulled in for questioning.
Yeah. And our goal today isn't to retry the case or anything like that.
Not at all. We want to analyze the sources that describe this collision that happened inside that interrogation room. It's age versus authority. It's pressure versus uncertainty. And maybe the biggest one, it's memory versus what the experts call narrative shaping.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start with the environment itself. The sources are all completely clear on two things that just set the stage from the get-go. Brendan was 16, a minor, and he was questioned for hours without a lawyer.
And that right there, the age and the absence of a lawyer, it just fundamentally changes everything. It changes the dynamic of the whole interrogation.
This wasn't just a quick chat, was it?
No, not at all. It was an intense, long process. And I think a lot of legal critics would argue that that environment, those conditions, created the perfect storm of vulnerability for a confession to eventually surface.
So we're not just talking about a teenager being nervous. This really gets us into the deep end of interrogation psychology, doesn't it? The brain of a minor under that kind of pressure is just in a different reality.
It's a completely different reality. What's so fascinating here is this core principle. Minors are significantly more likely to comply with authority figures. It's been proven again and again.
So they just want to please the adult in the room.
It's more than that. They don't process long-term consequences the way an adult brain does. When they're confronted by, police officers, people in power, their immediate instinct is often just avoid the conflict, end the stress.
So if I'm 16, I'm stressed. My brain is basically just telling me to find the quickest way out of this room, even if that means agreeing to something that isn't true.
Precisely. You prioritize compliance. It's a survival mechanism. The documents we looked at show that even before any, let's say, extreme tactics are used, just the authority, the isolation, and the sheer length of the questioning, that's a form of psychological pressure on its own.
And then you add the actual pressure on top of that. The sources talk about these long sessions creating something called false certainty. What is that?
Yeah.
That is a crucial concept. A mind under that much stress, especially a teenage mind, is desperate for things to make sense. It wants the stress to end. So the interrogation itself becomes this ordeal. And the primary goal shifts from telling the truth to just ending the ordeal. Pressure doesn't just make people invent things, it can actively encourage them to fill in memory gaps.
So it can literally change what they believe is the truth.
It can. If interrogators suggest a scenario over and over, the mind can start to accept that as a plausible memory, especially if accepting it seems like the only path to getting out of that room.
You just have to ask yourself, right, given his age, no lawyer. Was this environment really designed to discover the truth, or was it built for compliance?
And that's the core question about due process here. If the environment itself makes a confession suspect from the very beginning, should it ever be allowed in court without some other, solid proof to back it up?
Okay, so that sets the stage. But to really understand it, we need to look at what those hours actually sounded like. Let's move into the language. What was Brendan actually saying in those early hours?
His initial language it's extremely telling. The transcripts show him using these very tentative, non-committal phrases over and over. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess so.
Exactly. That's not the voice of someone who is certain about what happened.
No, it's the voice of someone who is completely lost.
Yes. It's the language of someone who is just trying to survive a stressful moment.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out what answer the authority figures want to hear. He's waiting for a signal.
And the investigators, based on the documents, they gave him that signal. They weren't just waiting for him to talk. They were using leading questions, right?
Mm-hmm. They were seeking confirmation of a story they already had in mind. It's a huge shift from asking what happened
Yeah.
to basically telling him what happened and asking him to agree.
The sources called it scaffolding language. Let's break that down. The reports list the actual patterns they used. Things like, is it possible that? Or could it be that? Maybe you remember. They're building a story for him in real time, aren't they?
It's narrative construction, and it's highly effective for getting an agreement, but it's catastrophic for getting to the truth. The whole structure is designed to just get yes.
And the result is that his, I don't know, just slowly melt away.
They dissolve. They turn into simple, compliant agreements. But the key point the documents argue is that this shift didn't happen because he suddenly remembered something. It happened because the environment demanded agreement, and he finally gave in.
I find it so shocking. And if you love cases that make you think, that really get into the psychology of it all, now is a great time to subscribe. Because you have to wonder, if the real goal is objective truth, why would you use language that pushes someone toward a specific answer? Why not just ask open-ended questions?
Because at some point, the goal can shift from discovery to confirmation, and when that happens, getting a statement becomes the priority, not protecting the integrity of the memory.
Which brings us to the most critical part of this, doesn't it? The inside details.
Yes.
This is the part that was so damning. The shift from these vague, I guess so, answers to very specific statements that investigators claimed only the guilty person could possibly know.
And this is where the analysis gets really important. The sources are very clear on this point. Those details, the specific locations, the actions, the timeline, they did not just suddenly appear from Brendan's memory.
But wait, how do they fit the crime scene then? I mean, that's what everyone struggled with.
Because the investigators themselves, through that scaffolding process, were guiding him toward details they already knew, or at least suspected. It wasn't him recalling information, it was more like a collaboration.
Like a multiple choice test where they're pointing at the right answer.
That's a great way to put it. Instead of asking, what did you do with the weapon, which requires an actual memory, they might offer options.
So they'd say something like, did you use X or maybe Y or something else?
Exactly. They offer the options. And as soon as he even tentatively selects one, they lock onto it and build from there. The narrative was pieced together bit by bit, using facts or suspicions the investigators already had. And Brendan was just confirming the pieces of the scaffold they built around him.
So if this is all true, it raises huge questions about what a confession even proves. If the details were planted, then the confession itself isn't independent proof of anything, is it?
It completely loses its power to corroborate the evidence. A confession that only happens after the details are fed to the suspect. It just can't be treated with the same weight as one where the person provides facts only the perpetrator could know.
And this all leads back to that big hypothetical question that everyone's asked since. If a lawyer had been in that room, would this confession even exist?
We can't know for sure, of course, but the strong conclusion from so many legal and psychological experts is probably not.
A lawyer would have just stopped the leading questions.
A lawyer acts as a counterbalance. They would have protected him from those documented psychological effects of hours-long questioning. The focus would have stayed on, verifiable discovery, not just getting a statement to close the case.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We've looked at this collision, and it seems to have 4 key parts. You have his age and vulnerability. You have overwhelming authority. You have sustained intense pressure. And you have this investigator-driven narrative shaping.
And when you put those 4 things together, it allows us to ask the real question here. It's not, did he say it? The tapes exist. We know he said the words.
The real question is, could he have not said it? If the conditions were different, if the language had been different, would we even be talking about this confession?
And that shifts the focus, doesn't it? It moves from just guilt or innocence to the ethics and the reliability of the entire process.
So what does this all mean for you, for someone listening to this? This deep dive isn't just about a single legal case. It's about looking at trust, at influence, at pressure, and how vulnerable we can all be. It teaches you to always question the environment behind any information you get. Who was asking the questions? Under what conditions? Was the goal discovery, or was it just confirmation?
And that's knowledge you can apply everywhere. It raises huge ethical questions about how much pressure is acceptable before a statement stops being a confession and just becomes an artifact of the room it was created in.
The legal journey after this confession is, of course, another incredibly complex story. It divided experts for years.
Yes. We've only really scratched the surface by looking at the process of the confession itself. The fallout was immense.
We'll have to leave that hanging for now.
Brendan Dassey, Confession or Coercion, Part 2 soon.
We want to know what you think. Based on the process we've broken down today, do you trust this confession? Let us know in the comments. Yes or no.